चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चादेशतारिणे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। The second chapter, titled Remembrance of Krishna, is the conversation between Mahatma Vidur and Uddhav, the great devotee of Krishna. So Uddhav meets with Vidur while on his way to Badrika ashram after the disappearance pastime of Krishna and the Yaduvamshis. Vidur, in the previous chapter, he had placed many questions before Uddhav with the welfare of Krishna and his family members. And Uddhav answers, talks about how Krishna has disappeared along with his family members. And then very spontaneously, he flows into Krishna Katha. So we see a glimpse of that when Vidur was talking about asking for the welfare. Then at the same time, he was glorifying. He was remembering some characteristic of them that made them special. And that's the nature of loving interaction between devotees, that they remember with love not only the name, but also pastimes and qualities. And in case of Uddhav, when it comes in the context of Krishna, then he's barely able to contain himself. So this whole chapter essentially is Uddhav's remembrance and implicit glorification of Krishna. So verse 17. Dunoti chetaha smarato mameta yada padava vivande pitraha tatam bakamashat urusankitana prasidatam no kratnishkritina. Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their, Krishna and Balram's, inability to serve their feet due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "O mother, O father, please excuse our inability. Please excuse us for this inability." All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart. So this verse, it presents an interesting riddle, a puzzle for us. If Krishna is God, then he should not fear anybody. And if Krishna is God, he should always speak the truth. So one of the two things don't add up over here. So they're saying that we were unable to protect you. Please excuse us. Because we were fearful of Krishna. So if they were fearful of Krishna, then how can Krishna, if they're fearful of Kamsa, how can Krishna be God? But let us assume that he was not fearful of Kamsa. Then he is lying to his parents that I was fearful. Then how can he be God? How is this resolved? By Vishnu Chakravarti says that this is resolved by the fact that Krishna, for the pleasure of his devotees, takes on a position that is far removed from his divinity. So Krishna, as the personality of Godhead, could have done everything. He could have killed Kamsa, protected his parents, stayed in Braj, everything he could have done. But then the rasas would have been not that strong. Whether the rasa of Devaki lamenting for Krishna, or Vasudev giving Nand Baba advice how to protect Krishna, all these rasas would have been mitigated. So that is what Uddhav says gives me pain at heart. So he's not pained at heart about Krishna staying in Vrindavan or about what Kamsa has done. He was part of Kamsa's, whatever Kamsa did. But what pains him at heart is this excruciating sweetness of the Lord. That for the sake of giving pleasure to his devotees, he gives off his position of supremacy and assumes something that is far, far inferior. Okay, next verse. Kavamushangri sarojarenum Vishmartamishita puman vijigran Yo vishpuradbru vitapena bhume Bharam kritantena tiras chakara. Who, after smelling the dust of his lotus feet even once, could ever forget it? Simply by expanding the leaves of his eyebrows, Krishna has given the death blow to those who were burdening the earth. So in 4 verses, Uddhav will now talk about the real position of Krishna. So longer, in the previous verses, he was talking about the position that Krishna takes for the pleasure of his devotees. But then he wants to make sure that one is not confused between the two. One understands that who Krishna is and what he does. So the father or a grandfather, for the pleasure of the grandchild, may get onto the floor on all fours and crawl around. But the same father can stand up and be a king and everybody would bow down. So even when he's crawling on the floor, he's still the king. But he's doing it for the pleasure of his grandchild. So Uddhav will want to make sure that we don't get confused by this. So now he's speaking about Krishna's supremacy. And in this verse, he talks about 2 aspects. One is Krishna's love for his devotees. After smelling the dust of his lotus feet, one can never forget. And the second, he talks about his chastisement. That simply by expanding the leaves of his eyebrows, he gave the death blow to those who were burdening the earth. Okay, next verse, 19. Drishta bhavadbir nanurajashuye chaidyasya krishnam divishatu siddhi yam yoginaha samprahayanti samyak yogena kashtad viraham sahita. You have personally seen how the king of Chedi, Shishupal, achieved success in yoga practice, although he hated Lord Krishna. Even the actual yogis aspire for such success with great interest by performance of their various practices. Who can tolerate separation from him? So this verse is a demonstration of the power of Krishna, both to chastise the miscreant and also to award those that he is favorable on. So Shishupal was a great warrior, and Krishna simply killed him with a flick of his finger. He didn't even have to engage in combat. Just he flicked his finger and Shishupal died. And then the same Shishupal's soul entered the lotus feet of Krishna, which is aspired by yogis after performances of mystic yogas for a long, long time. So this is the greatness of Krishna. Next verse. Tatheva chanye naralokavira yave Krishna mukharavindam netre pibantu nayana viramam parthastra padama purasya. Certainly, others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjun's arrows. And while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. Previous verse was talking about Krishna's mercy to those who were inimical. So Shishupal was actively inimical to him, and Krishna mercifully gave him a destination that is aspired by the greatest of yogi. This verse talks about those who are neutral to Krishna. So the soldiers who were fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it doesn't make distinction, both sides. But the fact that they were facing the arrows of Arjun, at least this verse talks about the ones who was on the side of the Kauravas. And they did not know Krishna, but simply Nayanam Abhiramam. They looked at Krishna and they developed some appreciation for him. What a handsome person, how exquisitely beautiful. And the neutrality turned to favorable inclination. And then they were purified by Arjun's arrow. What does it mean, purified by Arjun's arrow? So it's not that Arjun was chanting some Vaishnava mantras and throwing his arrows to purify them. What it means is that they helped Arjun serve Krishna. So now, of course, they were not willingly doing it, but one way or the other, they helped Krishna's devotee. So by seeing Krishna, they became favorable. They served Krishna directly by serving Arjun. And what did they get? They got Salokya Mukti or Sarupya Mukti, one of the higher forms of liberation. So here it says they achieved the abode of the Lord. So that is the same lok, Salokya Mukti. Next verse. Swayam tasamya tishayastrayo dishaha swaraja lakshmyapta samastakama balim haradbischiralokapalahi kireta kotyedeta padapitaha. Lord Krishna is the Lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching the millions of helmets to their feet. So far, Uddhava was glorifying Krishna in terms of others. Shishupal achieved this. The people at the battle of Kurukshetra achieved this. Now he says that Krishna's greatness is not dependent on others. He says that he is independently supreme. So his greatness is not predicated, it is absolute. Now, of course, he's using relative terms to conventionally establish the greatness, but in order to truly explain Krishna's greatness, if Krishna was all by himself, he would be as great. And then he says that he is the Lord of all kinds of threes. So generally the three over here is mentioned, is considered to be the three Purushas. That he is the Lord of Karunadakshay, Garbhodakshay and Shudakshay Vishnu. Acharya says that also extends to that he is the Lord of the three predominating deities, Brahma, Vishnu and Rudra. He is the Lord of the three aspects of existence, creation, maintenance and destruction. He is the Lord of the three modes of material nature, gunas, which is Sata, Raja and Tama. He is the Lord of the three potencies, namely Chit Shakti, Maya Shakti and Tathastha Shakti. He is the Lord of three kinds of jivas, devotees, neutral and inimical. He is the Lord of two kinds of three opulences. So these are the six opulences: wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge and renunciation. And then he says that the eternal maintainers of the creation offer him paraphernalia by worship by touching the millions of helmets to his feet. So essentially he is talking about the glorification of Krishna by the Brahmas. So this is the pastime that appears in Dwarka. And different Brahmas from different universes come. And some Brahmas, our Brahma, which is one of the smaller universes, has 4 heads. Some Brahmas had 10,000 heads. Some Brahma had 1,000,000 heads. And then they all, when they came in the presence of Krishna, then they worshipped him by touching the millions of helmets to his feet. So this is how great Krishna is. Verse 22. Tatasya kainkaryam alambritano viglapayatyanga yadugrasenam tishthan nishannam pramesti dishnaye nyabodhya deva nidharayeti. Therefore, O Vidur, does it not pain us, his servitors, when we remembered that he, Lord Krishna, used to stand before King Ugrasen, who was sitting on the royal throne, and used to submit explanations before him, saying, "O my Lord, please let it be known to you." So, same theme. Now, Uddhav is, before he had started glorifying Krishna, he had used almost similar verbiage, that it pains me to see how he begged the forgiveness of his parents, that we could not come in and rescue you. Now, here again he sees Krishna taking the subservient position. Krishna in the royal court would stand in front of the king Ugrasen and makes proposals and says that would you like to review it and accept it, or would give him information and say, let it be known to you. And the pain is, the source of the pain is an appreciation of the extreme humility of Krishna. And according to the Acharyas, the pain is also coming from regret. That how could I forget the sweetness of Krishna? In the past, he had talked about how Krishna gave mercy to Shishupal and to the opposing soldiers in the battle of Kurukshetra. So this is the greatness of Krishna, and this is the sweetness of Krishna. So the pain is also that while Krishna was there, why did I not fully appreciate it? So Uddhav had a friendly relationship with Krishna. Krishna would come in front of Uddhav and praise Uddhav that you are wise and nobody can exceed you in terms of your thoughtfulness. So let me know what to do. And then Uddhav would advise Krishna. Now Uddhav is thinking about that, and he's also he's embarrassed, and also he's feeling regret. Verse 23. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigamashyapayayadapyasadvi lebhe gatim datya uchitam tatonyam kanvadyalun sharanam rajena. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So Uddhav is now giving examples of why he was feeling regret in the previous verse. That how should I take shelter? Now, Uddhav, of course, is a surrendered devotee. But in the mood of a pure devotee, he feels that he's not a surrendered devotee. So he's saying, I see Krishna so merciful, so kind. And we see that he is talking about more and more mercy of Krishna. That to those who were his devotees, he took a subservient position. To those who were neutral, he gave them Sarupya Mukti. To those who were opposed to him, he also liberated them. And this is an extreme example of Putana who was coming to kill a small child. And Krishna gave him the position of his mother. So he's now lamenting, how shall I take shelter of one who is so merciful there? So this is one of the two verses that apparently when Sukadeva Goswami heard, because if you remember, when he was born, he left his father and he went to the jungle. And Vyasadeva then he instructed his disciples to sing various verses of the Bhagavatam at different places in the forest. And Uddhav, he heard this Ahobakiyam Stanka Alakutam, and he got a glimpse into the sweetness of the mercy of Krishna. The other verses appears in the 10th canto, chapter 21, verse 5. Brahapidam natavar vapu karanyo karnikarna. So between these two verses, they describe Krishna's four unique aspects. This verse talks about Krishna's prema and lila. And Bharapitam Natavar, so that describes Krishna when Krishna has come back from herding the cows. So it describes the peacock feather, it describes his face covered with dust, the beauty of his form. So that describes Rupa and Venu. So as we know, there are four things that only Krishna has, which is Rup, Venu, Prem and Leela, which even Lord Narayan does not possess. So it is said that when Sukadeva Goswami heard these two verses, even though he was situated in the impersonal Brahman, he became completely attracted to Krishna. He came running back to Vyasadeva. He heard the Bhagavatam, then he got up and left again to preach the Bhagavatam. Okay, I'll do one more verse and then we can stop for any discussion. Manye Yasuran Bhagavatam Strayadishe Samram Marga Binivista Chittam Yasam Yuge Achakshata Tarakshaputram Amse Sunabhayadudham Apatantam. Sorry. I consider the demons who were inimical towards the Lord to be more than the devotees, because while fighting the Lord, absorbed in thoughts of enmity, they were able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garud, the son of Tarkshya, Kashyap, and carrying the wheel weapon in his hand. So Uddhav continues this mood of extreme humility of a devotee. He's considering himself more fallen than demons. So does that mean that he is glorifying the demons? We know Uddhav is a devotee. Now he's saying he's fallen than the demons. So does that mean that demons are situated at a higher plane? No. He is glorifying the mercy of Krishna. That even to those who are completely unqualified to receive it, Krishna is so merciful that it extends to them also. And Prabhupada makes the statement that one should understand this to represent Uddhav's lamentation at his separation of the Lord. It should not be accepted as a final statement. It's not a tattva. It's not a final conclusion. So Uddhav, in the state of lamenting, coupled by the fact that as a very exalted devotee, he himself is experiencing a great amount of humility. And now whatever he's saying is factual. That yes, they did receive his mercy. But are they more advanced than Uddhav? Of course not. Because Krishna killed them and Krishna gave his association to Uddhav. So one should understand these verses in that context. Okay, let me pause here and see if there's any comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just had 2 comments actually. I was, the 7th canto before Narasimhadeva pastime, there is a segment where the discussion is, seems like even those demons who, similar to what you just said, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they achieved liberation, even though they were inimical, but they had such a strong sense of it, like that constantly they were thinking about the Lord. So it was the remembrance of the Lord, even though it is inimical, was led them to the pure position. So I was appreciating that. And the second thing was that recently I came upon a little shloka where similar to what you shared before. I think it was verse 17, I think. In that, the pastime of Lord Rama, it is said he exhibited 9 different rasas, and one of which was also this rasa of fear. And like how you shared here, how can it be true? He has to speak the truth, and he has to be fearless, and yet we see this dichotomy because of the Lord's leelas. And so I just thought I'd share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful realization. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Prabhuji, one question, Mataji. One question, Prabhuji. As Mataji was asking, like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they got liberation. So does it mean that like each time when Ravan and Kumbhakarna, they're all killed, they got the impersonal liberation, and again they fall down to the material world to take the next demoniac birth? Is that how it happened for them?
So they were Jaya Vijay, right? So they were cursed, and as part of the curse, after the end of each life, they came back in another life, and after the three births as demons, they went back and they resumed their position.
That is true. But why I asked that question is like, in between, it is not that immediately one after the other they took the birth. It also that one happened in a different manvantar and this happened in different. So what were they doing in between the lives, kind of? They would not have been gone to Vaikuntha in between, is my understanding. So I was asking.
So Jiva Goswami says that Jay and Vijay were still performing their duties in Vaikuntha, and the demons were their expansions. So that is one understanding. Second understanding is that they were doing whatever Krishna wanted them to do. So there was some time that was between one end of one Leela and the beginning of other Leela. So their eternal position is still the same, that they had a temporary fall down, but whatever Krishna wanted them to do, they were doing it. It's not enunciated clearly.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think also Krishna wanted to have some, people that are that caliber as well, because Krishna wanted to have a good fight. Because, it can't be with any ordinary personality. Jai Vijay, I think, are high caliber that can confront Krishna, give him some hard time also.
Ultimately they were serving Krishna. Even as demons, they were serving Krishna. Okay, no more questions. We'll go to verse 25. Vasudevasya devakyam jato bhojendra bandhane chikrishur bhagavanasya samajena bhyachitaha. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudeva in the womb of his wife Devaki, in the prison of the king of Bhoj. So in 10 verses, Uddhav will briefly describe the pastimes of Krishna in Vraj. So he was so far speaking about Krishna in Dwarka. We are standing in front of Ugrasen and his pastimes in Kurukshetra. Now he will briefly talk about the pastimes of Krishna in Braj. Uddhav was the only person, one of the few people, Uddhav, Balram and Rohini. So there were only 3 people who had who were common past in Uddhav had very brief. He had gone there and he had some understanding. Rohini and Balram, of course, were there all the time, but they were the only ones who had visibility to both of Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka and Braj. But Uddhav at his heart was a Brajvasi because of the mercy of the gopis. So it's not possible for him to speak about Krishna without speaking about the Braj Leela. So here he speaks about the appearance pastime of Krishna, which we are all familiar with, and which will be spoken about in much more details. So this will be spoken about in the first 2 chapters of the 10th canto. Verse 26. Tato nanda vrajam mitaha pitrakam sad vibhyata ekadasha samastatra Gudarchi sa balovasat. Thereafter, his father, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda. And there he lived for 11 years, like a covered flame with his elder brother, Baladev. So now, Vidur, of course, is completely aware of all these pastimes of Krishna. He's part of many of them, closely associated. But both of them are relishing even this brief description of Krishna Katha. So he's referring to Krishna as covered flame, as Gudha Archi, because Krishna lived there in fear of Kamsa. So the flame meaning that the potency was there, but it was covered because of Krishna's own desires. The Acharyas also, so he says 11 years, and the Acharyas give a brief explanation that Krishna actually lived in 3 places, or Krishna and the Brajvasis. For 3 years and 4 months, he lived in Gokul. That's where he grew up. Vasudeva actually brought him to Gokul. Till for 3 years and 4 months, he lived in Gokul. Then they moved to Vrindavan. And for another 3 years and 4 months, they lived in Vrindavan. Then they moved to Nandagram. And at 3 years and lived there for another 3 years and 11 months. So this is given by Shivaram Maharaj in Krishna Sangiti, and also given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Also, this is given by, if you read the Bhagavatam 1045.3, there it is given in slightly more details, because between these 3 places, they also briefly stayed they stayed at Dig for some time, Kamevan for some time, 2 months here, 3 months there. So it also gives a little bit more there. So basically, when Krishna left Nandagram, he was 10 years and 7 months. So he's been up. So Uddhav approximates it to 11 years. So he left on the Ekadashi of the Krishna Paksha of Chaitra month. And on 3 days later, on the Chaturdashi, he killed Kamsa. So another point that is made is, if you consider the age of Krishna, it does not correspond to his pastimes, because a child is considered to be Kaumar till 5 years, Pauganda till 10 years, and Kaishor till 15 years. And if Krishna left at 11 years, he was just entering Kaishor. But many of his pastimes, especially the conjugal pastimes, are reflecting more of a mature stage of Kaishor. So the Acharyas, and again Vishwanath Chakravarti and other Acharyas, they explain that Krishna, and this is true for other great personalities, but he grows at half as fast. So when he was entering 11, he was like 15 years old. When he was entering 5, he was like Pauganda stage. So that's why the pastimes become more consistent. Now, of course, when Krishna enters Kaishor, he stays at Kaishor. After that, he does not age. But till the time he reaches Kaishor, he ages half as fast as conventional. This is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the commentary on in his Sararati Darshani 1045.3, where he explains it in further detail. I'm summarizing it here. Okay, verse 27. Parito vatsape vatsam. I'm sorry, different meter. Parito vatsape vatsamas charan vyarad vibhu Yamuna pavane kuja duja sankulitan gripe. In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cowherd boys and calves, and thus he traveled on the shores of the Yamuna river through gardens densely covered with trees and filled with vibrations of chirping birds. So this is, so the previous verse talked about the appearance of Krishna. This verse talks about when Krishna had grown a little old. So right now we see him that he is herding calves. So this is when Krishna is old enough to go on his own towards the, so this is towards the later part of his Kaumara area. And and the activities that Krishna is doing is typical of the Vaishyas. So the Vaishyas, they do 4 things. They do Pashunam Rakshanam, then Krishim, then Vanikpatham, and Kushidam, which is cow protection. Krishim is agriculture. Then Vanikpatham is trading, and Kushidam is money lending. So the particular Vaishya community that Krishna belonged to was basically in cow protection. Some agriculture, but mostly cow protection. That's why they moved from one place to another. Actually, in the Harivansh Purana, it's a very interesting point that is given, that when they were living in Gokul, then Krishna is the one who forced them to move, because one day he calls Balram, and then he says that, look, our cows have eaten all the grasses. And the cowherd man, they have cut down all the trees and taken the wood for construction and for burning. And because of that, the forest is bare and the animals are suffering. It's almost like he's speaking about, not almost, he's speaking about environmental protection. So he says we should not stay at this place for a long time. And then Balaram says, but the people like it over here. So then what Krishna does, and again, these are pastimes that are given in other Puranas. So in Harivansh Purana, Krishna, from the pores of his body, he manifests wolves. And the wolves, they start attacking the cows and the cowherd man, and then they get afraid, and then they move from Gokul to Vrindavan. But essentially, they are semi-nomadic. So they did not move on a daily basis, but we can see they would move in 3 to 4 years time, basically to make sure that the cows had new pastures to graze on, and the previous pastures had time to be replenished. Verse 28. Kaumarim darshayam chestan prekshaniyanam rajaksham rudan nivahasan mugda bala simhavalokanaha. When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, he was visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh, just like a child. And while so doing, he would appear like a lion cub. So Balasimha means like a lion cub. And it also, so Vishwanath Chakravarti says that sometimes Krishna would boast to show his prowess. He would go to a cow and pull the tail, or he would try and pull a big push a big bull, but as soon as the bull will turn, he would get scared and run away, and then everybody would laugh at him. And sometimes he would cry, and Rudaneva is pretend crying. So this is what children do if they want something. So they will just pretend to cry, and then after some time they'll forget and they'll stop, and then they'll remember, and then they'll again start crying. So Rudaneva is crying without tears for the sake of evoking sympathy. And he says that visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. Now, of course, it was there, but he enacted these pastimes for his for his closest devotees, the Brajvasis. Nobody else, not even in the spiritual world, do they have the pleasure of these pastimes, this childhood pastimes of Krishna. Okay, verse 29. Saiva godhanam lakshmya niketam sitgo vrisham charyan anugan gopan ranadvenurarirmat. While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. So now Uddhav is talking about Krishna becoming a little older. Initially he was herding cows. In this verse, he is herding the fully grown bulls. And when he's blowing his flute, then his friends are becoming enlivened. So this is Krishna leaving the house to herd. He would go all day, and then he would blow his flute. He would play with other cowherd boys, and then he would come back home. So Uddhav describes this as Godhanam Lakshmiya. So he glorifies the cows as Dhanam Lakshmiya, as the real wealth, the real opulence. Prabhupada writes about it extensively, how the cows are important, and he condemns that how people who kill the cow is like killing their own mother. That the mother nourishes the child with the breast milk, and one who kills the cow is like killing your mother. And Prabhupada quotes Venam Kvanantam Anavinda Dalaya Taksham, the Brahma Samhita, the famous prayers, which talks about Krishna playing his transcendental flute. Okay, verse 30. Prayuptana Bhojarajena Mayana Kamarupinaha Lilya Vyanuduttam Stan Bala Kridankaniva. The great wizards who were able to assume any form were engaged by the king of Bhoj, Kamsa, to kill Krishna. But in the course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as child breaks dolls. So Prabhupada says that this means God is always God. Whether he is 6 days old, 6 months old, or 90 years old, or 120 years old, his potency never changes. And Uddhav considers this to be a secondary. So if you look at it, he is first absorbed in the loving pastime of Krishna with his devotees. And then he said, yes, by the way, he was killing demons. Also, inconsequential, like a child breaks dolls. So, without any effort. Verse 31. Vipanan Vishapanena Nigraya Bhuja Gadipam Uthapaya Payad Gavas Tattayam Prakriti Sthitam. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kaliya. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. So this is the Kaliya Daman Leela, which we all know, and which is expanded in the 10th canto, chapter 16. Ayajaya Gosavina Goparajam Dvijottamaha Vitasya Chorubharasya Chikirshan Sadayam Vibhuhu. The Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows. And also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus, he advised his father to perform the worship of Go, or the pasturing land and the cows, with the help of learned Brahmins. So this is our favorite Govardhan Dharan Leela. It appears in 10th canto, chapter 24 and 25. So Uddhav uses the word, so he says Go Savena, that he wanted to serve the cows, and Govardhan, the devotee. And Cha, the also means that he also wanted to use the accumulated wealth of the Vaishyas. So the reason that the Vaishyas earn wealth is that they can perform yajna. And the Govardhan yajna is a classic example of it. That they serve the Brahmins, they serve the cows, they gave opulent prasadam to everybody. That's the proper use of wealth. Wealth that is accumulated is like sins that are accumulated. And the Cha also points to the fact that he also desired to break the pride of his dear devotee Indra. Okay, we'll do a couple of more verses and stop after that. Actually, that'll bring us to the end of the chapter. Varshat Indra Vrajakopa Bhagnamane Tvijavalaha Gotra Lilata Patrena Trato Bhadranugranata. O sober Vidur, King Indra, his honor having been insulted, poured water incessantly on Vrindavan. And thus the inhabitants of Raj, the land of cows, were greatly distressed. But the compassionate Lord Krishna saved him from the danger with his pastime umbrella, the Govardhan hill. So Krishna, this is again the ongoing Govardhan Leela, and two more lessons from the pastime. The fault of being proud. Krishna does not tolerate pride in his devotees, and the fact that Krishna always protects his devotees. So he protected both. He protected Indra from pride, and he protected the Brajvasis. And at a deeper level, he protected the Brajvasis from the pain of their separation, because the different groups of the devotees in Vrindavan would suffer in pain when Krishna went to different places. So when he was with the Gopas, he was not with the Gopis. When he was with the Gopis, he was not with the parents. So at different points, they would suffer. But when they were for 7 days under the Govardhan, all of them were associating with Krishna simultaneously. That's why we see many interesting rasa sandhis. So we won't, as part of this, we want to Govardhan Leela, but if you read some of the more esoteric commentaries, then you see how the rasa sandhis come and play because of the unique arrangement. That there is Balram standing next to Krishna, and there is Srimati Radharani standing in front. And Krishna is looking at Srimati Radharani and making eyes at her, and then he notices that Balram is watching. And then he suddenly becomes embarrassed. Or you see the confluence of his mother, and who has the Vatsalya Ras, rubbing Krishna's hand and saying, "Don't hurt it, keep your hand down, and let's make sure that, let me rub some oil on it." And then Lord Balram smiling, that for Krishna this Govardhan is smaller than a sesame seed. When in his partial incarnation, he keeps the entire universe as a sesame seed. So what can this? So this confluence of Vatsalya and Aishwarya Bhav there. Okay, last verse of the chapter. Sarakshashikarer mishtam manyan rajani mukham gayan kalpadam reme strina mandal mandanaha. In the third season of the year, the Lord enjoyed as the central beauty of the assembly of women by attracting them with his pleasing songs in an autumn night brightened by moonshine. So this is Krishna's pastime in Rasa Leela. So we see that Uddhav is in his mind from the time that Krishna appeared. He goes through his different stages as a small child, as a young child, as herding the cows, the Govardhan Dharan Leela that was done when he was 7 years old. Now he talks about Krishna's pastime of Rasa Leela, and this is of course he is referring to the Maharas that happened in the autumn. Very similar if you look at the verse. So the Rasa Leela description is in 10th canto, 29th chapter. Starts with a very similar description that when the autumn moon was brightened, then Krishna desired to consort. So after this, Uddhav stops. He does not want to speak further because he knows that he would get so completely absorbed that it would stop him from doing the service that Krishna had given him. And the service was to instruct Vidur. And more importantly, the service was to go to Badrika Ashram and instruct the sages over there. So at this point, he stops. So this is the end of the second chapter. Let me pause here and see if there are any comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. If no the comments, actually I would like to share regarding the certification.
Oh yes, please do.
So I sent out yesterday the poll to all the devotees, and thank you for who responded. There were like 10 responses out of, I think we have quite a few, but I see a constant 13 members joining every week. So out of 10, almost everyone have agreed to do certification. Only one devotee is having some challenges. So I think with that, what I would request is whoever has not responded, if you can let us know, so that probably we'll come up with the first thing is the homework units. If everyone has it, that's good. I'm sending out a part of every weekly emails as well. So there were a few submissions made, and whoever is planning to do, you can plan it to submit to Bhairi Prabhu. Possibly now we'll come up with the dates as well, so that we can have a formal certification model. Okay. So the very first step which we concluded is to have your poll and your agreement that you will be participating in the certification. So next steps, we will share it next week or something. You want to add anything, Bhairi Prabhu?
Yes, I'm very happy that we have devotees interested in formally taking the certification. So I'll contact the Board of Education and get all the necessary details from them. From what I can understand, the certification involves a combination of 4 things: learning of verses, open book essays, closed book essays, and closed book exam. And then there is something which is supporting, which is sadachar, which is giving classes and being a devotee in good standing, etc. So I will get the specific details. The Swadhyay, I'm taking the help of Gaur Sundar Prabhu to review the submissions. Swadhyay is the Purva Swadhyay actually is self-study questions, ideally speaking. They are meant to be done before the class is taken, so that they give one a deeper perspective in the class. Again, Bhagavatam is large, and it's not possible to do justice to it by just in the limited time. The Board of Education had this is mostly coming from MIHE. They had basically established the Purva Swadhyaya, that one can self-study ahead of time, and it helps in understanding. Even if you do it post, it is useful because it helps you revise what's been done, and also when you're writing the answers, you tend to be more meditative about it. So, so like I said, I'm taking help from Gaurav Sundar Prabhu. When they are reviewed, I will be sending them back to you in the next few weeks, and I will also send the process for getting the certification. Okay. Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
I do, Prabhu.
Ramkishore Prabhu.
Go ahead.
Can I? Sorry, Prabhuji. Maybe I will wait.
Please go ahead.
Okay, Prabhu. Prabhu, you sent that references folder will have the homework sessions, but I am only seeing 4 Word documents. It mostly talks about the Purusha Sukta and that, Krishna's Purusha Avataras. Only 4 Word documents I am seeing. I am not seeing beyond that. I'm not sure, am I missing something? And
I can go over that, Prabhu. First thing is, which we did earlier in first canto, and that references is there in the same email. And the other one is for second canto, which is those 4 documents. What you see, those are all questions where you need to fill it up and submit.
But it looks like, when I see the document, it looks like information, but not like a question. So
Hare Krishna, Ravi Prabhu. If you go to the bottom of the email, there is a homework link. So if you click that, you will see all the questions, all the Purva Swadhyaya.
YouTube channel, SoundCloud, video and audio recording. Again, one more references link is there, that one?
Yes, that one has all the Purva Swadhyaya.
Oh, it only has references folder, is only having 4 Word documents.
No, that link is incorrect. So you just have to go to the bottom of the email. There is a link there for the homework. And if you click that, you will see all the Purva Swadhyaya questions.
References, video recordings, audio recordings.
I'll go over with you also after this call.
Okay, Prabhu, that helps. Yeah, thank you.
I think Paramatma Prabhu has.
Yeah, I have one question. I can understand the open book questions, but how do you do the closed book exams? Because that has to be supervised by someone. So how will we go about that?
So there are 2 ways that they recommend. One is that through a Zoom session, which basically means, so let's assume you're taking a closed book exam. I do a Zoom session with you, and while you're on Zoom, you write the answer. It's a partial solution because with technology you can do anything. But the other is that that they say is that the person can go to the temple president, and the temple president can proctor, or some devotee in senior standing. I typically have the devotee self-proctor. So I do the Bhakti Shastri, where almost everybody is going for certification. And then it's an honor system. When somebody is doing this, then I have full trust on them. So I allow them to self-proctor for Bhakti Shastri. For Bhakti Vaibhava, I will check whether self-proctoring is an option or not. If not, I think now I'm definitely not going to be spending time on Zoom with every student taking the exam. I think probably the more reasonable option would be that some senior devotee in your temple or in your community takes the responsibility for proctoring the exam. So I'll send them the paper, they will give it to you, and they will sit by when you answer it, take the paper and give it back to me.
Second question. At what interval do we have the closed book exams?
I don't know that. That's something that I have to get the cadence of the exams and the questions. And so as far as the open book is concerned, once I get all the questions from Yaichi, then all those devotees who are interested, I will send it to them upfront for all the 6 cantos. And then they can basically, whenever they have time, whether it is before or after the class or whichever way works, they can continue to work on it. Closed book exam, I have to get some understanding of how many exams there are and what would be the right time. So I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Prabhu, can I ask a question? Text number 20, when you were talking about Arjuna, can you say that point again? You made a, you made a point about purified by onslaught of Arjuna's arrows. Can you say that again, please?
So the point that was raised over there is that what does it mean by saying that they were purified by the arrows of Arjuna? And the explanation that is given is that they helped Arjuna in his service to Krishna. So Krishna's instruction to Arjuna was that pick up your weapon and fight. And the soldiers, willingly or most probably unwillingly, they were helping Arjuna serve Krishna. And that's how they were purified of any residual contamination and became qualified to be liberated.
Prabhuji, I have a question, Prabhuji. The Vrindavan pastimes, during Vrindavan pastimes, Krishna was killing a lot of demons. So does the Brajvasis, they are aware, like they are specifically targeted for Krishna? Like, all these demons are coming repeatedly, almost every day. So, and is it the hand of Kamsa behind it, they could see that, or it was a shock when Akrura comes and tries to take Krishna and revealing that he is son of so and so, Vasudeva and Devaki, then only they got to know about the enmity and all.
So I think the first question you asked is, were they aware that these demons were targeting Krishna? There seems to be a strong awareness about that because of the fact that, yes, they were targeting Krishna. Putna came to kill Krishna, and Trinavarth picked up Krishna and left. That is one reason also, it is in the Bhagavatam, that is one reason why they moved out from Gokul and from Vrindavan, because they felt that there were too many demons that were coming, and it was inauspicious for Krishna. They also had a sense about, at least Yashoda and Nanda, they had this sense, because if you remember the Namkaran of Krishna, then even though he does not say it, but he also says it, that they are actually the sons of Vasudeva and Vasudev. And when Nand Baba goes and meets Vasudeva, then Vasudeva actually gives him many instructions about the safekeeping of Krishna and Balram. And Nand Baba accepts them. So the understanding was there. It does not seem to have influenced it in any way, that they were their love for Krishna was much more overpowering. And they obviously had this understanding about Kamsa's enmity towards Krishna also. Vasudev clearly spells it out to Nand Baba, be careful. That Kamsa will be spending demon. In fact, after that conversation with Vasudev, Nand Baba goes back and they decide to move. And I think that was the move from either from Gokul to Vrindavan or Vrindavan to Nandagram. But yes, those activities were initiated by that. So there was this sense of understanding.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we can start with our next chapter, which is the third chapter, Canto 3. So this is titled The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vrindavan. And this is pastimes of Krishna in Mathura, then pastimes of Krishna in Dwarka, and finally leading to the annihilation of Krishna and the disappearance pastimes. So verse 1. Uddhava vacha tataha sagatya puram swapitros chikeshayasham baladeva samyutaha nipatya tungad ripuyuthanatham hatam vikarshad vyasum ajashravayam. Sri Uddhava said, thereafter Lord Krishna went to Mathura city with Sri Baladev, and to please their parents, they dragged Kamsa, the leader of the public enemies, down from his throne and killed him, pulling him through along the ground with great strength. So we'll see that in 9 verses. Uddhava will describe Krishna's education and his marriage. So this is, of course, the first thing that they did when they went to Mathura. 3 days after Ekadashi, they left Vrindavan, and Chaturdashi, they killed Krishna. And the acharyas say that Krishna pulled Kamsa down to the ground and killed him, so that the parents could have a complete view. There would not be any uncertainty about the killing of Kamsa. Verse 2. Sandipane sakrat proktam brahmadityasa visitaram tasmai prada varam putram mritam pancha janodarat. The Lord learned all the Vedas with the different branches simply by hearing them once from his teacher, Sandipani Muni, whom he rewarded by bringing back his dead son from the region of Yamalok. So while Krishna was in Vrindavan, he did not go to a Gurukul, because as a Vaishya, that was not their priority. So he was taught how to herd the cows, milk them, and all activities for Goraksha and Gopalan. But when he was in Mathura, he was the son of a Kshatriya prince, the son of Vasudev. So they sent him to Ujjain, present-day Ujjain, where there was the ashram of Sandipani Muni. And so it is said that Krishna and Balaram, they did not have a long stay. In 64 days, they quickly mastered the 64 Angas of Vedas. And before leaving, as Guru Dakshina, they retrieved the son of Sandipani Muni. First they went to the ocean. and not finding him there. This is where Krishna got the Panchajanya conch. They went to Samyamni, the abode of Lord Yama, and there they retrieved the son and returned it to the parents. Verse 3. Samahuta Bhishma Kanyayaye Shriha Shavaranena Bubu Shavayasham Gandharva Vritya Mishatat Mishitatam Swabhagam Jahare Padam Urdhani Dadat Suparnaha. Attached by the beauty and fortune of Rukmani, the daughter of King Bhishmak, many great princes and kings assembled to marry her. But Lord Krishna, stepping over the other hopeful candidates, carried her away on his own share, as Garud carried away nectar. So it is described in Manusmriti that there are 8 kinds of marriage, and here Krishna's marriage with Rukmini is being described as Gandharva Vritya. So it's actually, so the 8 kinds are the highest kind is what is called Brahma Vivaha, which is done according to the scriptures with the approval of the seniors and completely according to the Vedic rituals. Then the second is what is called the Daivya Vivaha. In the Daivya Vivaha, it's very much like Brahma Vivaha, but the only difference is that the groom is also the priest, and supporting and there is slightly lesser attention given to following the rules and regulations of the Vedas. The third is Arsha Vivaha. So Arsha Vivaha is when the parents of the bride, they receive some compensation from the groom, and the marriage is done completely according to the Vedic injunctions, but there is that exchange which makes it slightly inferior. So these 3 are generally done in Brahmins families, the Brahma Vivaha, Daivya Vivaha and Arsha Vivaha. The 4th is the Prajapatya Vivaha, and the Prajapatya Vivaha is done on more secular and religious perspective. This Vivaha also is predominantly in the Brahmins, and the focus is on having a family. So Grahastha Ashram is a very strong focus. That's why it's called Prajapatya, having children and growing the family. Then, so the first 4 are considered to be glorious in the relative sense, from Brahma, Devya, Arsha to Prajapatya. The 5th is called Asura Vivaha. Asura Vivaha is when the bride is purchased from the family, and the only consideration is wealth, that whoever is able to give enough money, the marriage is still done with the consent of the bride and the groom, but mostly viewed as a commercial transaction. 6th is Gandharva Vivaha, which is described over here, where there is not much attention that is given to the formalization of marriage, but more attention is given to the consummation of marriage. So this is when a man and a woman, they like each other, and without going through any rituals, they decide to become husband and wife and live together by mutual consent. 7th is Rakshasa Vivaha. Rakshasa Vivaha is by abduction, where this is done largely amongst the Kshatriyas, where the Kshatriyas, they would abduct the woman, and against the abduction would be against the will, but the marriage would be generally with the consent of the girl. and the 8th, which is the lowest, which is called a Peshach Viva, which is equivalent to rape, where against the consent of the woman, the man forces himself on her. It's interesting, in the Manusmriti it is said that Peshach Viva is when the lover secretly embraces the damsel, either because he is sleeping, or because she is intoxicated by liquor, or because she is disordered in her intellect. And so it's basically, what would you consider illegal now? It was immoral. So Krishna's marriage with Rukmani comes in the combination of Gandharva and Rakshas Viva, because Krishna abducted Rukmani. But the reason Uddhav calls it Gandharva is that Rukmani invited Krishna to abduct her. So it wasn't really an abduction, it was with the active consent of Rukmani Devi. And of course, ultimately it is between Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi Devi. So it is much higher than even Brahma Vivaha. Verse 4. Kakudmino vidaha nashodamitva swayam vare nagnajitam uvaha tad bhaganamanan api gridyat ajanan jagne akashtha shastaprata swashastraha. By subduing 7 bulls whose noses were not pierced, the Lord achieved the hand of the princess Nagnajiti. And in the open competition to select her bridegroom. Although the Lord was victorious, his competitors asked the hand of the princess, and thus there was a fight. Well equipped with weapons, the Lord killed or wounded all of them, but he himself was not hurt. So this is the marriage of Krishna with the princess Nagnajiti. And her father, he established such difficult condition because he only wanted Krishna to take the hand of his daughter. Priyam Prabhur Gramya Iva Priyaya Vidit Surarcha Dyutaram Yadarthe Vajradarva Tamso Ganarushandaha Kiridamrigo Nunamayam Vadunam. Just to please his dear wife, the Lord brought back the Parichata tree from heaven, just as an ordinary husband would do. But Indra, the king of heaven, induced by his wives, henpecked as he was, ran after the Lord with full force to fight him. So this is the Parijata tree pastime. You all know about it. It's interesting to see the mood of the devotees towards Krishna. So Indra running after Krishna is being condemned. Prabhupada says henpecked. And Krishna, just to please Satyabhama, went for the Parijata tree, and that is being glorified. And what's the difference? Ultimately, they're both henpecked, because Krishna had no interest in the Parijata tree. But Narad Muni had incited all this. He had come and given a very beautiful Parijata flower to Krishna, saying that to give it to Rukmani. So from the day that Rukmani got it, Satyabhama got upset at Krishna. And then she kept harassing him that I don't want the flower, I want the entire tree. Because there was that co-wife competition going on. Finally, Krishna got fried and he said, okay, I'll go and get your tree. So then he goes and gets the tree, and of course, Indra fights with him, he defeats Indra and gets the tree back. Uddhav is glorifying that. But he's saying, look at this Indra henpecked. Because when the Parijata was going, the Parijata is Sachi's, it was in Sachi's garden, and she got upset at Indra that he's taking away my tree. and then he ran away to fight. Well, then look at this henpecked person. Just because of his wife, he's fighting with the Lord. So everything that Krishna does is glorious. That's the mood of the devotees. Now, ultimately, the Parijata tree belonged to Krishna because Indra belongs to Krishna. So he's not stealing. But even in the apparent pastime, the mood of the devotees is everything that Krishna does is glorious. So this verse shows that same thing is being done by Krishna, same thing is done by Indra. Both of them are trying to please their wife. Indra is being condemned, Krishna is being glorified. Why? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, next verse. Sutam hridekam vapushagrashantam drishva sunabhon matitam dharitya amantritastat tanyaya shesham datva tadantaha puram avivesha. Narkasur, the son of Dharitri, the earth, tried to grasp the whole sky. And for this, he was killed by the Lord in a fight. His mother then prayed to the Lord. This led to the return of the kingdom to the son of Narkasur. And thus the Lord entered the house of the demon. So this is the pastime of killing of Narkasur, who is the son of Mother Earth. According to some, he is the son of Varadev, when Varadev came in contact with Mother Earth. According to some Puranas, he is the son of Hiranyaksha and Bhumi Devi. But the point is made that because of his bad association with Banasur, he was initially a very pious mystic. And that's why he got a lot of benediction and powers. But then he fell into the bad association of Banasur. So Krishna killed him. And his son Bhagdat was crowned as the next ruler. This pastime is actually quite elaborately described in Harivamsha Puran in the Sri Vishnu Parva part of it. Okay, so let me stop over here. I actually didn't look at the time. I'm almost out of time, but if you have any questions or comments, you can take it. Okay, if not, then we'll stop over here. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.